Uh-oh.
So I can tell you wonderful things about him. Tell me now. Well, Bob Trembley, our one and only, is giving us the only presentation tonight on active space missions. He's been an amateur astronomer since the late 1960s. How old were you? 8. 8?
First telescope at 8.
I was going to say, at your youth, you must have been pretty young. He's a solar observing enthusiast, a meteorite collector. What's that mean? You have a net? Working on that. It says a meteorite collector.
You spent a long time on this routine.
Neodymium magnets, right?
I've done that too.
He's a volunteer, NASA Jet Propulsion Labs solar system ambassador.
That's cool.
He's busy. And he's one of the board members here at Warren Astronomical Society.
Take the newsletter, look at the newsletter.
Yeah, doing an incredible job on the WASP newsletter. I mean, it's way more than it has been any time I knew in the past. He has been doing increasing amounts of astronomy outreach last few years, both with the Warren Club and independent of it. Very interested in improving astronomy education in Michigan. His wife teaches in the public schools and would like to see more of that. Not only in Michigan, but throughout the country. I'm all for that. And he's fascinated by asteroids and near-Earth objects.
You collect those too?
I was trying to think how to ask. That was a little more of a stretch. So with that, active space missions.
Here we go. Well, so I'm doing active space missions, and when I started researching this, I had no idea how much was up there, and I can't cover everything. So I'm covering most of the really cool ones, and since there are so many of them, I'll be cruising through these. So we've already done that, and it says I'm a planetary defense inspirationalist. I'm very interested in asteroids, and we are going to be talking about some of these things tonight. First one, I had to figure out where to start this because there's so much out there, and I figured I'm going to start right this in this whole center of the solar system. So this is Ken's favorite space probe. This is SOHO's constantly looking at the sun, and you can see coronal mass ejections. It has had its mission extended many, many times, and it's going to be up there long enough to have observed an entire solar cycle, and it has been renewed again until at least 2016, and probably again after that if it keeps working. It is at the L1 point, a gravitationally neutral-ish point between the Earth and the Sun. And remember this, because you're going to be seeing me referring to the L1 and L2 points several times tonight. This is one of the coolest things. I'm going to be using this when I talk about the Sun from the future. This is an ISON flyby, and this is taken by SOHO. This shows coronal mass. This is just awesome. This shows ISON going by. And this, SOHO has discovered like hundreds of comets since the time it's been up there. Solar Dynamics Observatory is another space telescope looking at the sun. It's continuously observing the sun in many different frequencies. The videos of the sun we saw earlier are all from the SDO. That video of the 4 different ones, I made that from the site. You can go there, create your own video. Very, very cool. It is it's looking at the sun in several different frequencies, and you can see prominences and into the corona, and it too has been up there a long time. You can go to the site, get data from any of these. It is, where is it? It is in a circular geosynchronous orbit around the Earth. It is not at one of the L planets. Stereo are two nearly identical observatories, and they're watching the sun in stereo, so you can watch coronal mass ejections in 3D. And so we actually have the ability to look at the sun from all angles now. IRIS, this was launched just recently, and it is observing the interface region between the photosphere and the corona. And it has been gathering some pretty cool data. Again, this was like last year. Messenger at Mercury. It's been there a long time. It took a long time to get to Mercury because it had to go through a circuitous loop and several flybys to get there. But it has been there. It has a whole bunch of scientific objectives. And there's a picture. It looks a lot like the moon. And one of the cool things they discovered on Mercury is evidence of water in some of the shadow craters near the pole. There's a false color map of Mercury showing some mineral diversity. Venus Express, this is an ESA probe. It is studying Venus atmosphere, dynamics, chemistry, and it's using the same design as the Mars Express. And subject to a midterm review this year, so we'll see if it keeps going. But again, it's been there for a while. This is a JAXA probe. It failed to achieve Venus orbit and is currently coming back around. They're going to try and put it back into Venus orbit. It was previously known as the Venus Climate Orbiter. And at the same time that they launched that thing, they launched a solar sail test. And the goal of this was eventually get a solar sail that could take something out to Jupiter. This thing actually was on its way to Venus, and it did pass Venus, and it is on an extended mission now. This is kind of weird. It's an uninhabited vehicle that's being used to just image the Earth and stuff like that, and it has potential for emergency response. And ACE, this thing it's been sampling solar particles for a very long time. It too is orbiting the L1 point. It's been out there since '97 and may continue to operate through 2024. Aura, this was launched in 2004. It's measuring trace gases in the Earth. So we're at Earth now. And the International Space Station. A lecture on the International Space Station, we could do an hour of that easy, so I picked one thing. Here's all the things that the International Space Station is researching. A lot of different things. I picked the alpha magnetic spectrometer. It's the cosmic ray detector, and it was installed by that guy on the last shuttle.
Who's the other guy?
That would be me talking to that guy.
Second to last shuttle flight.
Second, that was the last one?
Second one.
Five.
Bad Bob.
Service to Hubble.
I understand you wanted to trade your hat for his helmet.
Did I say that? So there it is, got installed, that's where it is. And this thing is detecting over nearly 1,000 cosmic rays per second. It's generating a whole boatload of data. And in the first 18 months, 25 billion particle events. So this thing is a lot of cosmic rays out there. And one of my favorite things on the ISS is the cupola. And they installed this, it's for Earth observations, but you can, there it is, looking at the Earth. And this generated one of the, I think, the coolest pictures in the space industry. And that would be that. Tracy Caldwell.
Earth's not bad either.
Yeah. All my buddies that are into science fiction say that Robert Heinlein would love this picture. So can you see where the cupola is on there? That thing's pretty big. You guys know where that is? No, where is it? Let's zoom in at it. It's right there. So yeah, it's that thing's big. Van Allen probes. These were launched 2012. We've got 2 probes that are orbiting through Van Allen radiation belts. There they are being deployed. And in September of 2012, they detected a third radiation belt that persisted for about a month. And they've made some other discoveries, and they're still up there. Anybody seen any recent stuff on this? Anyone out with that? I haven't heard anything recent on that. Sat. Not sure what's going on with this name. It's a climate orbiter, and there's a whole bunch of climate probes up there. I'm going to call that one Terra. Thank you very much. This is mapping surface temperature and elevation, that kind of stuff. Again, a lot of these things are doing are very, very specific. Aquarius, sea surface salinity, that's all that does. And I've seen some videos of this one. It's pretty cool, the salinity changing over the course of the year. Atmospheric infrared sounder, climate, greenhouse studies. Autonomous spacecraft experiment. Yikes. This one has experimental AI software in a space probe. It is autonomously making decisions on what data collect and transmit and stuff like that, and that's the right place to put an experimental AI. It's in space.
Well, I mean, you could have like a network in the sky. You could call it Skynet or something.
He's a funny man. But this, the whole reason behind this is to develop autonomous spacecraft, because once these things get out pretty darn far, they're not going to be able to say, hey, what do I do back to Earth? So, especially, I'm thinking like interstellar missions. They're never going to be able to phone home and get instructions. Quick scatterometer. This is another ocean observing satellite. This thing is better at observing the ocean surface than buoys and stuff like that. Jason 2, another ocean topography scanner. CloudSat, another weather and climate tracking. Lars, this one I added just recently. This one is measuring the frame dragging effect. Now the Gravity Probe B did that a few years ago, but this one is from the Italian Space Agency. Gaia was launched, last year in December. This is charting a 3D map of the Milky Way galaxy and doing radial velocity measurements. And I don't think there's been any data from this yet. I don't think so. I haven't seen any. Orbiting Carbon Observatory. This thing is, all it's doing is studying carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. CubeSats, these are pretty cool. We got some guys at U of M actually doing these things, but these are small, tiny little satellites that they're finding. You can put a lot of stuff in these if you can launch them for like the International Space Station, and they'll have like a 6-month lifespan, and they can do a lot of stuff that their bigger brothers do. And one of the guys at U of M, I'm talking with him about this. They're working on this. It's electric propulsion, and I'm seeing if I can get him to talk at the science fiction convention this summer. Or Race.
Or you.
Yeah.
He probably will be talking here.
Yeah, I'm already dealing with that. Grace, this thing, this is pretty cool. This was the precursor to the Grail, which went to the moon, but it's 2 probes that are gravity. They're measuring gravitational forces. Hubble Space Telescope, another lecture that could take an entire hour. Bunch of servicing missions, and it very famously had some problems to begin with, which was fixed. But it has returned so much absolutely gorgeous imagery, I could keep doing this for an hour. So I'm not going to.
Even before the fix, it still saw the supernova, the remnants of supernova 1987, which is how Phil Plait started his career too.
So it is one of history's most important observatories, and it's pretty darn big too. Let's all have a moment of silence for all the poor people on that bus.
I don't think there's any more planned missions to the telescope.
No,
We can't get there.
Yeah, the last servicing mission, they put like a handle on it, which one of these things, robotic thing, could attach to. And I hadn't known this, but if we don't do anything, it's gonna burn up by 2024. I didn't realize that.
They'll probably bring it down before that.
Yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen to it right there. Herschel, infrared space telescope, designed to look at some of the cold stuff. It found oxygen molecules in the Orion Nebula, and they're still, the mission ended, but they are still looking over data. Images from it. Kepler Space Telescope, hang our head. This was an exoplanet hunter, which had an enormous success until, I'll get to until.
Yeah.
It just recently, it confirmed 715 additional ones, so we've got about 1,700 confirmed exoplanets and 3,600 candidates. And that's the area of the sky, that square patch up there where it was looking. From the data they got there, they figured that there's about that many planets in our galaxy. And it fell to the problems with the reaction wheels. These are spinning masses which you can electrically change the spin rate and move the telescope. And 2 of these things failed, so we've got a perfectly working space telescope, except we can't point it now.
It is back in service. Not on the original mission. They've got a more limited kind of mission it can do, where it points at one patch of sky for 1 month, and then points at another patch for 1 month, and each year comes back to the same patch.
I'd heard that they were thinking about using the solar wind.
Yeah,
to
that's what they're
point.
doing. They can keep it stable in one patch using the solar wind to help it for about 1 month. Then they steer it to another patch.
Any idea how long they can keep that up?
I don't,
Not past 2024.
probably for a long time if nothing else goes wrong.
I just found out about this today. I got an email from the Solar System Ambassador Program, but there's the Kepler's been up there for 5 years now. So they're having an art contest, and that image is one of the only 2 submissions so far. So if you know somebody 13 to an adult who's a graphic artist who wants to make an image of what they think a Kepler exoplanet would look like, you can submit it there, and they'll take the best 100 and put it up on. Yeah, it's a pretty cool program. Spitzer, another infrared space telescope, cousin to the Hubble. First one to see light from outside the solar system, or see light from a planet outside the solar system. There's some images from Spitzer. New Star. This thing is pretty cool. This thing launched and then extended this huge boom. It is a black hole observation scope. It's going to be taking census of collapsed stars, and it's going to be looking at relativistic jets and stuff like that. And it's a bizarre-looking telescope. Kind of like it. And there's some images taken by it. That one on the right is really creepy. Chandra. This is an X-ray telescope observing high-energy regions. It was deployed from the shuttle, and there is a relativistic jet that Chandra imaged. And you can print your own Chandra 2014 calendar. You can go right to their website and print one of these things. That's pretty cool. WISE. This thing was recently reinstated, and it is an infrared space telescope. Scanned the entire sky, found 33,000 asteroids and a bunch of solar system objects, and then it was put into hibernation, reactivated, and has been finding asteroids. Galax Gamma Ray Explorer. It's an ultraviolet space telescope. Its mission ended last year, and it has been decommissioned, but it's going to be in orbit. It's another piece of space junk. Okay, Fermi. This is the Gamma Ray Space Telescope. This is on an extended mission. Swift, another gamma ray. This one specifically looks for gamma ray bursts. If it finds a gamma ray burst, it images them very quickly because they don't last very long at all. Landsat. This was highly publicized last year when they put another one of these up. These things have been up in orbit for Earth for about 40 years now, just watching changes in the Earth, and they use them for all sorts of things like land planning and stuff. I've even heard them using some of the data for forensic reasons. And this is one of the things I've been adding into the WASP recently, is they have these galleries of the Earth as art, and they just have some gorgeous pictures of the Earth. They've got 3 galleries of those so far. Space, very long baseline interferometry. I'm not really sure what's going on with this. It's a JAXA thing. I think this would work a lot better if they had more than just one satellite, and I'm not even sure what they're doing with it, but this was on the list of recent missions. This is a pretty cool probe. It was launched in '78, and it was studying the magnetosphere from the L1 point. It got renamed to us, used the moon's gravity, and sent into an encounter with a comet. And ever since then, it's been in solar orbit. And it is coming up on us, and will be coming toward, it would be passing right by the Earth in August of this summer. It's still functioning, but the equipment to talk to it was removed in 1999, so we have no way of talking to this space probe. And if we could tell it to change its orbit. Maybe this is an opportunity for hackers. I don't know, but
in fact, the Radio Amateur Satellite Group in Germany has received signals from it, and they are attempting to command it. They're looking for the documentation to put together
the guy
command uplink.
The guy who stole it from the scientists who were behind ISEE is trying to get it back to them.
Yeah.
Because he's lived with guilt for 30 years. But I hadn't heard that we can't communicate with it. It sounds like he's still petitioning NASA to try to get, there's several universities working on trying to communicate with it, is what I heard this
It's an
week.
interesting thing to watch this summer, so you see what the amateurs, because I'm pretty sure amateurs are going to try.
It has to, basically, we have to talk to it by the end of May, I think, or else it's too late.
So that's that guy.
Do you hear me?
Pretty much. Artemis, these guys were initially part of the Themis mission, and they moved into lunar L1 and L2 orbits. These guys are right now what they're doing is they're measuring the magnetic, they're measuring the effects of solar wind and magnetic field on the moon. LRO and L-Cross, these were launched together on the same probe. L-Cross just did not detach from the fuel section. LRO went into orbit. Well, what L-Cross did was the fuel section smacked into the, one of those permanently shadowed craters, and the analysis section behind it, well, it had about 20 seconds or something like that. But what they did was they did see a puff. They did do some analysis to see that we didn't see it. Everybody was expecting a big flash, nothing. But no, they did see something. They did some analysis on it, and the important thing down here is of the stuff that was kicked up, 5.6% of it was water by mass, and 20% of it was volatiles of all types. And then there's the crater that the impactor created. The LRO has been orbiting the moon, mapping the moon in extremely high detail earlier. I don't know if you might have seen some of the videos I had here, but they've got a whole boatload of data coming in from the moon, so much so that, oh, I'll actually get to that in a minute. They've actually imaged some of the Apollo landing sites. There's 14 and there's 17. That's very cool. And there's some eye candy. That's Tycho crater. Remember
That's
that
where you
crater?
can see the astronaut footsteps on that satellite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be all done.
So they're crowdsourcing analysis of some of the LRO data. They're getting so much of it back, and there's 3 of them: the Moon Zoo, Lunar Mapping and Modeling Portal, and the Moon Mappers. And they're just asking people to categorize craters and rills, whether to tell the age of stuff. Grail mission. This was really cool. Again, two orbiting satellites around the moon, mapping the gravitational fields of the moon. And the impact site was named after Sally Ride. And Sally Ride was very involved with this, and she actually got schools involved with this too. My wife in the classroom was dealing with the grill. They got to download, the kids got to download images. They got to pick a square with a moon and get an image from that. It was pretty cool. So there's the moon. Here's the moon's gravity map, and it's pretty lumpy. They said it's one of the lumpiest things in the solar system. And the other thing they found out is that the moon's crust is pulverized. It's completely pulverized. LEDI, this launched last year in September, and go over this really quick. Essentially, they found an atmosphere on the moon, and they went to investigate it. And I just read something this afternoon. They found that a sodium component, what was it? It increased during the daytime, and they weren't expecting it, so they have to do some more analysis on that. But yeah, the moon has an exosphere. A lot of other bodies in the solar system do. And the LEDI probe had a whole bunch of particle samples, spectrometer, and the lunar laser com demo. That's pretty cool. That was talking broadband speed. There's the ground station, and it actually worked. They got 622 megabits per second, so we can talk to spaceships with laser beams now. That's very cool. And at the end of mission, which I just got updated today, they said it was going to be March, now it's going to be April, but that's how it's going to end the mission. Chinese lander, what's going on with this? What's going on with the rover? I didn't even look at that.
It came back.
It's working?
Working a little bit. It's fully working, but they reestablished contact with it.
They woke it up.
They woke it up. All right, so yeah, the Chinese, very recent lander on the moon. First time we've been back to the moon since, what, 72? Ridiculous. So, other Earth satellites. I can't cover all of them because there's just way too freaking many of them. But there are communications, Earth observation, weather, and ones I can't talk about. I'll give you an idea. There's a lot of this. Is not to scale. If that was to scale, we'd have problems. And there's the geosynchronous rings. I hadn't actually realized there was two geosynchronous rings. I didn't realize there was one at an angle like that. And there's your Earth debris. that's all.
I think we have a problem.
Yeah, we do have
Australians are.
Mars Odyssey. This guy launched in 2001. Mars Orbit 2001. And it's currently being used for the Mars Exploration Rover communication. Mars Express, studying geology, surface environment, and what is that? The Beagle lander, I remember that. It released the Beagle lander, but they lost contact with it. Did you ever figure out what happened to that? Did it just crash? Did you ever find it all?
Oh, no.
Even with the orbiter? They never found it.
Oh,
So there's a nice image from the Mars Express. And Spirit and Opportunity rovers. This was the first in a series of spectacular landings on Mars. This did the bouncy things. And after it deployed, there's the base station. And these guys found blueberries. They found the first meteorite on another planet, which Bob wants.
It's yours for the taking.
Yeah, I just said, I'll go get it. I'll pick it up. But Spirit became stuck and became mired, and they turned it into a science platform, and they eventually lost contact with it. Sadness. Its twin, Opportunity, is celebrating 10 years this year, and has been repurposed just recently to work with the Curiosity lander to look for a biosphere. They're looking for a biosphere. Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. This is related to the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter in as much as that it's doing wild field mapping. And again, mapping Mars in ridiculous detail. There's ridiculous detail. I love that picture.
that is a great picture.
MRO was the first space probe to image a comet from another planet. That's ISON. And there's Phobos from the MRO. And Curiosity, I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with this guy. Had one of the second most exciting landing, or the third most exciting landing on Mars. The two Curiosity, Spirit, and Opportunity. Both use the
This
same
was the
one.
most.
Oh,
yes,
this was cool.
So it's big, and it's
That's
having.
not on,
Pardon
that's
me?
not on Mars, is it?
Yeah.
How can
There's
they-
two.
How are they breathing?
Those are two Martians.
Have a moment of silence for the two poor scientists on Mars.
They're Martians, everybody knows.
That's a path. That's the path it's going to be taking. It is right around here right now. So, can you even see this? You might or might not be able to see this. I can't tell. But the LRO has actually imaged the path of the rover as it's going across the ground. You can barely see it. There's a close-up of it. That's the rover.
Very cool.
And there's the landing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So it's been doing science, it's been drilling, it's been laser, and it's been sifting and analyzing. And doing a lot of stuff. Pardon me?
Sounds like it's been for the UP.
Yeah. It found alluvial. They found an alluvial fan, and they did, that was big news. What was it, last year? Was it? And they found evidence. There's evidence of running water. How many times have they found evidence of running water on
Salt
Mars
water
now?
now. They found salt water.
Really?
Yeah. About 2 weeks ago or so.
This was just launched recently. This is India's first Mars mission, and essentially, this is they're developing technologies for interplanetary missions. So this is the first Mars mission, and September of
It
this.
has some really interesting science goals.
So yeah, September of this year. Goes in orbit September, so keep your eyes open. Maybe this also launched just recently, and that's going to be looking at the upper atmosphere. And so there's all the stuff that we've sent to Mars. That's we've sent a lot of stuff to Mars.
Some Russian ones?
Yeah, they should be. Yeah,
Yeah.
there should be all of them there. I have another picture that's like this. It's actually sent to me by Heidi Hamill of the Planetary Society. You'll see that one later. So Deep Impact, this guy, why is he in here? Oh, he is still current. Originally, they got repurposed. Originally, it was an impactor that impacted that comet, but it was repurposed as the epoxy mission. And Dawn, I'm going to go through this really quick. Dawn, in the asteroid belt, sent to Sirius and or Vesta, and on its way to Sirius, uses an ion thruster. It orbited Vesta in July of, December 2011. There she is. She's just gorgeous. She's really gorgeous. I love that, and she's lumpy. And that's probably why she's lumpy right there. But they figured, they found out that it differentiated. It's probably, it's a mini planet. The IAU has yet to rule on that, but we'll see what they have to say. Yeah, the mission scientists are calling it the smallest terrestrial planet. Yeah. So there's Sirius. That's the best image we have from the Hubble. That's probably what it looks like. And it's probably like the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn. And it's round. It's most of the stuff. It's most of the mass of the asteroid belt. And they just announced recently that it's spewing vapor, like Enceladus and Europa. So if it was any closer, it probably would be. So 2015 in spring, it orbits. Dawn probe orbits Ceres. Can't wait. This is an exciting mission. It's Juno. It's on its way to Jupiter. We're going back to Jupiter. Yay. We've only explored, I love this picture, we've only explored this far to Jupiter, and I can't even make that out, so I zoomed it. Yeah, that's not very far. We haven't gone very far into Jupiter. This thing did a gravity assist by the Earth just recently. There's its orbit. It's going to go into orbit around, it's going to go really, really close to the cloud tops of Jupiter, and it's going to fly inside these radiation rings. So it's going to come in. Yeah, these are these radiation bands around there. It's coming right in through there, and as Jupiter turns, it will cover the entire surface of it. And as it goes over the clouds, what it's going to do is it's going to be using the same type of gravity probes that the Grail did, and it's going to be measuring how the density of the clouds changes the position of the probe as it goes over. So this is going to be a very exciting time.
Well, and every time it orbits, except the first, will be the return of the Gemini.
Stop that.
Why me?
Find another hobby.
Cassini at Saturn. This guy's been out there for a long time and has returned some of the coolest imagery in the space program, other than the astronaut at the cupola. It has just gotten, these are just gorgeous. I just absolutely love these pictures. It's been great. And it's been doing good science too. There's the Earth and everybody's supposed to
That's the
wave
Earth
at it.
wave.
Yeah, that was the Earth wave picture, yeah. There's a huge storm on it.
Oh, wow.
There's
The hexagon.
Hexagon is out there, and there's the rings. Close up of the rings. Another real close up of the. I just love these pictures.
Yeah.
This was not during the equinox. That's just gorgeous.
Yep.
And there's Enceladus spewing, Titan, Death Star.
Death Star, yes.
I love that one. That looks like a sponge. That thing's
Yeah.
great.
Prometheus, that's a cool little one.
That's a cool
Inside the
picture.
ring.
So, yeah, so what are they going to do with this thing? Well, this is one concept. They're going to put it into a very Juno-like orbit. They're going to make it come right over between the cloud tops and the rings, which is pretty scary. And eventually it'll impact into the cloud tops. That's one idea for the end of mission. Voyager 1.
Out there.
Yeah, we love this. I actually saw that on Twitter recently. I'm in interstellar space and I still have 4 bars. Somebody at NASA got a sense of humor. So there's our Jupiter from Voyager 1's flyby in '79. Everybody was flipping out at these pictures when they came in. I love the shot of Saturn because the only way to get that shot is from behind it. And that's just gorgeous. Voyager 2 flew by Jupiter, flew by Saturn, and then flew by Uranus, and flew by Neptune. And there's a picture of Triton, biggest moon of Neptune. This thing's really weird. It's huge, and it orbits retrograde. It is probably a captured Kuiper Belt object. And there's the Uranus and Neptune exploration family portrait. What? I don't like that too much. I'd like to see that. This was sent to me by Heidi Hamill. I laughed really hard when I got that. So the future, what are we doing in the future? New Horizons by Pluto, and I can't wait to hear from that guy. Well, that guy is awesome. It's almost there, but space is big. It had a gravity assist in 2007. Went by Jupiter, and here's the image it took of Jupiter. So if that's what that's the kind of imagery we're going to be getting from Pluto. Awesome. And Pluto flyby 2015.
Bastille Day.
So
Yeah.
is that a coincidence?
I think it is.
I think
But
so, yeah.
But what they didn't know when they launched it was that there were more than just Charon.
Mm-hmm.
And since we've found Pluto's other 4 moons, there's a pretty good chance that there's a bunch of little chunks of moon floating around in that system too. So they're really worried that as they approach the system, it's going to have a bunch of tiny little holes shot through it because it's going to be traveling so fast. So if it makes it to Pluto, we'll be in luck. But there's a pretty good chance it won't.
Rosetta, this is a really cool mission. It's going to have an orbiter and a lander on a comet before the comet comes in and gets active. So it's going to be arriving in August of this summer, yay! And the lander is being delivered in winter, and it will be on the comet when it goes active, and that's incredibly exciting.
Is it going to drill in or act somehow? See, it would be a shame if it got launched off. Yeah.
I've heard this is on and this is off. I'm not really sure, but
Yes.
NASA wants to get one that now it's on.
Yeah.
It's well, next week we'll
That's
find
the
out.
legislature.
Yeah. So essentially the idea is they want to capture an asteroid, put it in a stable orbit around the moon, and that way people maybe don't have to fly out to it. But
Pretty good.
Sentinel Mission. This is being put on by the B612 Foundation. This is a nonprofit created by 2 former NASA astronauts that want to find and deflect asteroids. That's the whole goal. This is an infrared space telescope that's going to be looking specifically for asteroids, and they figure they're going to find a whole boatload of near-Earth objects with this thing. And it's being constructed by with a Bell, the same folks that have put a lot of NASA things up. So they've got the right people working on it. OSIRIS-REx, this is an asteroid sample return mission from NASA. Actually, Rick Hill's wife is dealing with this. Yeah, that's very cool. Solar Orbiter, part of the Living Star program. It's supposed to launch in 2017. It's going to be flying within 45 million kilometers of the sun. Yikes. So, awesome shielding. And I got most of the data for a lot of these missions from the JPL mission site. And I just did the current ones there. If you do all missions, you're going to be there for a while. This is all of the spacecraft that were launched in 2013.
Wow. How many?
246.
Look at the left. It's counting them.
It says
14. Yeah, so yeah, that was just 2013. Lot of them. So that's the total number.
A lot of them from the Russian Ministry of Defense.
Yeah, what's really interesting here is the amateur and student. I imagine you're seeing like the CubeSat stuff there, but we're starting to see amateur and student satellites. That is really cool. That's a pretty interesting graph.
Yeah.
And actually,
There's the Russian military.
they're going to
That
get
is-
back into the manned space station because they're going to send up people from the Ukraine.
Not funny.
So that is it. And, I wanted to have a section that had "Where are they now?" and this is the only one I could find. And that's the poor Viking lander, all dusty and forgotten.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's,
Did it specify a size of the solar sail that you have?
I was interested in that question too.
I can find out. I didn't think it was all that big, but
Yeah.
can't guarantee.
Can you give us a wild ass estimate?
I would guess 15 feet across.
15.15?
Yeah, probably from like me to Dale. That would be my guess.
Yes.
What would you say the current cost ratio is? How many unmanned missions cost the same as one manned mission currently? Is it
20 to 1.
100 to 1?
20 to 1.
1,000 to 1?
20 to 1.
21. Yeah,
20 to 1.
well, after Crimea, it's gonna be 1,000 to 1.
Yeah, really. It really.
The Russians are gonna be charging us a lot more after this event.
Are there questions?
It's actually.
Yes.
The stereo spacecraft looking at the sun, can you go online and look at those stereo images? Do you-
Yes, yeah, you can.
Glasses or
there's
what?
There's a stereo app for the Android too that you can download and get the picture of the sun like moments ago, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the or satellite, you know, the Sky Safari we all have, there's another program they put out. It's for satellites, and they're supposed to have launch day, well, there's cube satellites, and you can, I don't know if it's operational yet, but within a short time, you'll be able to send a signal up from your iPad or whatever, and tell it to take a picture down of the Earth, and tell it to send it, ship it to you. Yeah, I don't think, if you go on to,
What's that called, Ken? It's Sky Satellite, I think, or Safari, or Satellite Safari, yeah, Satellite Safari. And you can go to their website for more information about that.
Yes.
Yes, is there some organization that acts like a clearinghouse for all of these satellites before they're launched, so they're not going into the
110
same
square
orbit
feet.
as each other?
Well, they do have to track them. I'm not really sure how they do that. That's an interesting question. And I know that there have been that they know where a lot of these things are, and sometimes they've had to warn the IIS, the space station folks or the Hubble folks about it, but usually
I'm thinking more of new ones. You know, if Russia's getting ready to send one up and we're getting ready to send one up, it'd be not a good idea to have them trying to attain the same orbit.
Well, the other problem you have too is, the Chinese and the US blew some satellites up. Great, there's,
We didn't blow.
I thought we did right after them as that.
It's not just satellites, it's also when you lose things. They like,
Right.
it's been cases where people, lost a wrench in space, that now becomes very deadly.
So there is no coordination.
So the Laddie mission to look at the dust and gas around the moon was potentially compromised by the fact that the Chinese did their lunar lander at the exact same time. So that kicked up a bunch of gas right in the orbit of Laddie. And I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just because NASA and the Chinese Space Agency are not allowed to communicate with each other by act of the U.S. Congress. But yeah, it was unfortunate.
I thought I heard that they, because it was going to be landing, they did want to see if it was going to be kicking up any dust.
So what they sort of repurposed Laddie to look for fuel in the they wanted to see the remnants of the fuel, but I don't think they detected any.
Yeah, I didn't hear them detect anything at all.
Any other questions?
Is that the Icaros? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. So do you know how far off he was in terms of the Icaros size?
Icaros is
He's
60,
off by a foot. It's
66 feet.
14 feet aside.
It has a diagonal spinning square sail 20 meters.
You don't want to know where I
20
got
meters
that
on the
number from.
diagonal.
20 meters on the diagonal.
Right. 20 meters on the diagonal.
20 meters, not 20 feet.
20 meters.
20 meters? No. The spinning is not on the sail, I don't think.
Well, it says 66
Are they
feet.
on the-
It's,
Maybe.
it's
Maybe
66 feet
66
on the diagonal.
Yeah, okay, fine. 14 meters. I read it
Okay, let's thank our speaker again. You want to say anything about the restaurant or whatever?
So we, some of us go to the Applebee's by the Tech Center after the Macomb meetings, and we have 5 minutes before we get kicked out. So if you want to chat a little bit before you leave, feel free. But
I got a quick comment.
yes, Joe.
This is on Bob's presentation. Stereo imaging for an iPhone is called 3D Sun, and it's pretty cool. I was just looking at it.